you. MC for this afternoon's event. Andrew Vyarhanga, who works with the Embassy of Sweden, should have been standing here, but is unwell. He lost his voice yesterday, so he couldn't be here. So we're here for the signing of a partnership agreement between the Embassy of Sweden and the World Bank to support the Multi-Donor Trust Fund's Window 3, which deals with private sector jobs, the private sector and jobs. We will start with the screening of a very short video that was made purposely for this event. It's only 1.5 minutes. Then we will have some remarks by the World Bank country manager, Ms. Mukami, and then the ambassador to welcome us as well to her residence, Ambassador Maria Håkansson. Do I have that right? Yes. Thank you. And then we'll have remarks by the CEO of Private Sector Foundation Uganda, Stephen Asimwe. Then some remarks by the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Bank of Uganda. And then remarks from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Then we'll have the signing, and there will be some media questions, if any. Then we will be done. Then we'll have refreshments. So let's have the video screen. So we'll watch. And I just need to say, maybe before we show the video, is that this is being live streamed. So there's an audience online as well. Thank you. And they're welcome. Okay, that's the little video, and just to say a small apology to the ambassador that we should have had the Embassy of Sweden logo and not the CEDA logo on one of the slides. No, I'd spoken with Andrew about it but we'll change it for the one that goes into the archive and to the record. So let me invite the World Bank country manager for Uganda, Ms. Mukami Kariuki, please. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Okay. Her Excellency Maria Håkansson, Ambassador of Sweden to Uganda, Dr. Michael Tingi Ego, the Deputy Governor of the Bank of Uganda, representative of the PS, Mr. Ramadan Gubi, Secretary to the Treasury, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Stephen Asimwe, Private Sector Foundation Uganda CEO, colleagues, development partners, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let me start by thanking the ambassador for welcoming all of us here to her home in Kampala. We're very pleased to be here to sign this partnership agreement between Sweden and the World Bank. This is a grant to the government of Uganda, which will support the activities that the Uganda government is embarking on to empower the private sector to create quality jobs. There cannot be a more urgent issue among other pressing priorities than providing employment to a large and growing youthful population as we see in Uganda today. As we all know, more than 70% of Uganda's population is below the age of 30, and therefore a key objective of the government's National Development Plan number 3 is strengthening the conditions for private sector growth to create a greater number of sustainable jobs. So far, economic growth in the country has not kept up with population growth, giving rise to an estimated 600 to 700,000 new job seekers every year. The economy simply is not able to absorb this number into the existing labor force, and the COVID-19 crisis has amplified existing structural issues in the economy, exacerbating development challenges. Lower economic activity in industry and service sectors has also led to job losses, resulting in a slowdown of economic growth and an increase in levels of poverty. The private sector, especially MSMEs, have been hit by a liquidity squeeze and a decline in markets, and this is being made worse by rising commodity prices and inflationary pressures partly caused by the war in Ukraine. Small and young firms in Uganda play a critical role in employment creation. Registered firms, 5 years and younger, account for more than 50% of formal employment. In addition, 3.1 million household enterprises provide self-employment and employment for family members, the majority, 56.2% or so, of which operate a service business with a substantial proportion, around 20.3%, engaged in manufacturing activities and agro-processing activities. The Multi-Donor Trust Fund, which we've heard about on the video, is managed by the World Bank and mobilizes donor contributions to invest in strategic areas in support of implementation of Uganda's national development plans, which of course ultimately aims to achieve Vision 2040. Sweden's contribution, as well as the earlier contributions from the UK and Netherlands, will finance activities under MDTF's Window 3, the Multi-Donor Trust Fund's Window 3, which focus on promoting sustainable and inclusive economic growth and job creation, as well as setting the foundations for the economy's future expansion and transformation in the aftermath of COVID-19. This funding complements the proposed US $200 million International Development Association financed investment project, let me say, the IDA, or International Development Association's financing towards a project called Investment for Industrial Transformation and Employment. The technical assistance provided by the MDTF will establish the operational architecture for the INVITE program, INVITE being the Investment in Industrial Transformation and Employment project, and will allow it to hit the ground running once it is operational. To date, a new project management unit, a digital platform for firms to bid for assistance, and financial monitoring systems have been established as part of the important preparatory work that, which has been undertaken largely by the supporters of the INVITE project. The Swedish government's funds will enable us to build on these foundations and we look forward to seeing the rollout of these funds in the coming months. Both the MDTF Window 3 and the IDA programs have been prepared in partnership with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the Bank of Uganda, the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda, and the Ministry of Finance leads the preparation and implementation of these activities with the two partners I have mentioned. Sweden is one of the 5 donors to the MDTF, whose portfolio now stands at $47 million. The others are the European Union, the Netherlands, the UK, and Ireland. So allow me today to give a special thank you to Sweden for coming through for a second time in support of the MDTF. The first time was a grant of $3.3 million in support of MDTF Window 5 to promote green growth. And let me end by saying that these funds will be passed on from the World Bank to the implementing entities seated around us today. So these will be effectively the government of Uganda through the Bank of Uganda, the Ministry of Finance, and PFSU. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mukami, for those remarks. And I'll now invite Ambassador Håkansson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dear Mukami, Country Manager of World Bank, very happy to be sitting here next to you on this occasion. And also, of course, very happy to have Mr. Joseph Enyimi here representing the PS at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the Deputy Governor of Bank of Uganda, and also the CEO of the Private Sector Foundation, also members of the media present, and ladies and gentlemen. Let me start then by just warmly welcome you to the Embassy of Sweden and to the Swedish residents here in Kampala. And the signing today of this partnership agreement marks the climax of a successful engagement between Sweden, represented by the Embassy in Uganda, the World Bank and the Government of Uganda, to support the private sector and jobs window of the Multi-Donor Trust Fund. This Multi-Donor Trust Fund has been established to support the implementation of Uganda's third National Development Plan, and the overlying objectives of the NDP3 include strengthening the conditions for private sector growth to create a greater number of sustainable jobs. Our partnership here responds well to that objective, and the fact that this partnership will be implemented in parallel with an IDA operation provides additional financial strength for achieving the set goals and acting catalytically. Uganda has one of the highest population growth rates in the world, and in order to harness this demographic dividend, Uganda needs to create conditions to absorb an estimated 600,000 to 700,000 people into the labor force each year. Today, only 1 in 4 employed Ugandans are in some form of wage employment, and among the youth, 60% are not paid for their work because they are contributing to household enterprises instead. Women, who are a very important target group with this partnership, are even more likely to work in the informal sector and in more vulnerable jobs. Women spend an average of 3.5 times more hours on unpaid work than men do, which limits the hours they can devote to their livelihoods. I'm happy to see we have the Women Entrepreneur Association here to make sure that we deliver on this as well. And furthermore, the government of Uganda, in its NDP3, acknowledges the growing regional disparities, with the bulk of economic growth concentrated along the southern corridor. This partnership corresponds well with Sweden's strategy for development cooperation with Uganda, where sustainable and inclusive economic development is one of our 4 prioritized areas. And through this partnership, Sweden will provide funding equivalent to 124 million Swedish krona for the next 4 years. And the reason we give it in Swedish is because you know how the currency exchange rate differs, and our agreement is actually in Swedish money, but we can give an estimation later on. So let me reiterate our commitment through the World Bank to support Uganda's objectives of the NDP3 by creating formal private sector jobs in new and expanded sectors. This occasion marks the beginning of an exciting journey where we look forward to implementing activities that are critical to promoting sustainable economic growth in Uganda. This program complements other support we're already providing to other areas like environment and climate change, including, as the World Bank manager there also mentioned, the Window 5 of the Multi-Donor Trust Fund, especially on forestry. But we also work on renewable energy, maternal and child health, and social protection. And this project will not only contribute towards job creation in the private sector, but it will also lay a foundation for future collaboration and support. So, once again, allow me to congratulate the government of Uganda and the World Bank for this partnership, and to thank all those individuals that have worked tirelessly to make us reach this point. I look very much forward to a successful implementation of the project, and I'm very, very excited also to see how Sweden, within this program and in support, will continue working with the Private Sector Federation Association, which we already have started, and also with Bank of Uganda, besides the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Obviously, I think the actors sitting here are really key to sustainable growth and job creation, and it's very good to see that the World Bank have them in their work here. Let me also apologize for just looking at my papers and not listening in more before, and obviously who we have here from the ministry is Juvenal Muhumuza. And we are very happy to have you here, and apologize for giving you another name initially. So with this, I thank you all, and I give the word back to you, Benna.
Thank you, Ambassador Hawkinson, for those remarks. I see Stephen Asimwe scribbling fast and furious. So Stephen, please, CEO, Private Sector Foundation Uganda, you have the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard, and good afternoon, everybody. I would like to recognize Your Excellency, Ambassador Maria Hawkinson. Have I got it right? From a town I fondly, in Malmo and Lund. The country manager, Madam Mukami Kariuki, the Deputy Governor, Dr. Michael Atingiego, my brother Juvenal Umuza, from representing the PSST, distinguished diplomats, development partners, colleagues from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen Asimwe is my name. I would like, first of all, to thank you, Your Excellency, for inviting us to witness the signing of this very important partnership towards raising resources for supporting the implementation of the NDP3 and specifically private sector growth. I represent the largest consortium of private sector players in the country. We have over 310 business associations, over 2.5 million members, and we are spread across the country, and we've been in existence for the last 27 years. So this very important occasion for us is a very good intervention, especially after the events that the Madam Kariuki and yourself have just mentioned here, and of course for the entire private sector in the country. So at the private sector, we applaud the development partners under the MDTF, specifically Sweden, for collaborating in pooling resources and working closely to support Uganda. And this effort will ensure effectiveness and avoid duplication and scattered interventions. We'd like to appreciate the government of Uganda and their focus and in prioritizing private sector to ensure a conducive business environment which encourages creation, growth and sustainability of enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, the MDTF, from what we've already gathered, will strengthen the conditions for private sector growth, and empower private sector to create quality jobs. We are delighted as the apex body of the private sector to be among the implementing agencies for the MDTF for the benefits to our members. Allow me to thank the World Bank for very many years of collaboration. We've seen impact, we've seen growth, we've seen many startups coming micro to small to medium, and some of them have become large enterprises, thanks to the interventions and collaborations we've had with you. Now, it has been said before, but the COVID-19 crisis hit the private sector very hard. And in particular, in Uganda, it was very tough. We had lots of closures of businesses, we had lots of job losses, and we have a very entrepreneurial population. But for many of them that were starting around this time, the challenges were enormous. But interestingly, at about the same time, some new opportunities emerged. We saw very creative young people entering into the digital space on deliveries, and a lot of that support has been largely to the support that you've given us. So the MDTF, whose implementation is already underway, is supporting technical assistance towards the execution of what you just mentioned, both of you, the 200 million industrial transformation and employment invite project, which is financed by the World Bank and will be implemented by PSFU and the members that you have just mentioned. And this will allow to support for new investments, but most especially create many jobs. The MDTF Window 3 and the IDA program have been prepared in partnership with the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Uganda and ourselves, and we commit ourselves to a faster pace of execution of the MDTF in line with the scope to ensure maximum benefits for the private sector and the country at large. I've just come from a meeting where we have been at, we came from the UK for the Uganda-UK convention. It was surprising to see that there were so many young people who have now joined the exports market, exporting fruits and vegetables and quality crafts, and the demand is bigger than supply. But for many of them, they need intervention, they need support, they need financing, they need skills, they need support in this kind of way. As I close, I would like to specifically for today thank the Swedish government. We've partnered with you before. We are actually implementing a 79 million krona agriculture value chain project across the country. And this is already transforming the countryside, but specifically the intervention is going towards the youth and women. So for any more support in this direction is greatly applauded by private sector. And on behalf of the board, the management, and the entire private sector, we want to thank you and want to collaborate closely with you, the World Bank, our governor, and the Bank of Uganda, the Ministry of Finance, and all the development partners towards ensuring that we transform this economy, the region, and our continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Simwe, for your remarks. And next we'll have Dr. Michael Atini Ego, the Deputy Governor of the Bank of Uganda. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, the Ambassador of Sweden to Uganda, the Country Manager of the World Bank, the Permanent Secretary, Secretary Treasury, the CEO, Private Sector Foundation of Uganda, the dignitaries present here today, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, in your distinguished capacities, a very good afternoon to all of you. I am greatly honored to be present here today to witness the formalization of a cooperation agreement between the Swedish International Development Agency, SIDA, and the World Bank, which is intended to promote sustainable and inclusive economic growth in Uganda. And I want to thank the ambassador for inviting me to her residence to witness this, and also the World Bank for this opportunity. From a policy perspective, financing of sustainable and inclusive growth is crucial to economic growth in Uganda, and more importantly now than ever before. Just allow me paint the macroeconomic picture and on why I say this. You know, I take every opportunity to explain what Bank of Uganda is doing. So you're aware that the recent global developments over the past few years have presented us with very unprecedented challenges, which have been magnified by simultaneous occurrence of these challenges, the frequency and the intensity. As a result of this, the tentative growth we saw in 2021, where we saw growth increase to about 5.7% as estimated by the World Bank, has kind of like been put on check in 2022, given the developments we saw in February 2022. And as a result of that, the latest World Bank projections are showing that growth for 2022 is likely to drop to about 2.9%. And you're also aware this has been compounded by the fact that the resurgence of COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukraine conflict that the country manager alluded to has largely affected this. Now, in the case of Uganda, it has even been compounded by the extended drought where we've seen food crop inflation pick up. So to sum it all, inflation in Uganda has increased, particularly food crop inflation, has increased from a minus 7.4% in November 2020 to 18.8% in August 2022. And as we talk right now, the latest numbers for August, your headline inflation is about 9%, and the core inflation is about 7.2, 7.3%. Not only that, because of the reaction of the advanced country central banks to the inflation developments, they have tightened their monetary policy. This has exerted pressure on our exchange rate. And we've seen capital outflows, particularly on the account of the strengthening of the US dollar, and the increased prices of imports have also contributed to the depreciating currency. So the Uganda shilling has lost about 9% of its value just between February 2022 and August 2022. Now, a combination of all these factors have led the central bank, of course, to tighten monetary policy. And as a result of tightening that monetary policy, there are some unintended consequences of that. So that is kind of like going to lower growth from what was projected it before, from about 4.5 to 6% in 2022. We are now estimating that it's going to be anywhere between 2.5 and 3% in 2022. Now, so that is the downside to it. But of course, we hope that by next year we are going to recover. Growth is going to recover in the range of 5 to 6%. But this cannot only be done by monetary policy. It needs a combination of monetary and fiscal policy to crowd in the private sector, build resilience in this dynamic environment if we are going to achieve sustainable economic recovery going forward. But we are aware of the adverse impact of the COVID-19 on public resources, particularly taxes. This has affected the tax collection, and as a result, it has led to increased borrowing by government domestically. So the public debt has increased. Now, this really underscores the need for concessional financing and the necessary intervention and support. So what we're witnessing here today is really towards that, the acquisition of concessional financing and this intervention in specific areas is going to go a long way in addressing this. So moreover, the objective of the support from SIDA is to promote sustainable and inclusive growth and create jobs, which is really well aligned to the National Development Agenda as provided for in the Uganda Vision 2040 and the National Development Plan 3. So I really want to take this opportunity to thank the government of Sweden through Her Excellency the Ambassador for taking interest in Uganda development journey and providing the much needed support at this pivotal time. So despite the challenging macro picture painted, interventions similar to this reinvigorate us as policymakers. So let me turn to the World Bank to thank you for continuously providing development finance to Uganda through IDA loans. I note that the funds disbursed following this agreement will complement the IDA finance investment for industrial transformation and employment, the INVITE program, a component which will be administered through Bank of Uganda. Similar to the administered funds of the Agricultural Credit Facility, SCF, and the Small Business Recovery Fund, SBRF, currently under Bank of Uganda, we are fully committed to ensuring that these funds achieve the objective for which they are intended. Interventions, for example, under the SCF have enabled the funding of 2,330 projects for micro, small, and medium enterprises encompassing women and youth. As at June 2022, close to 700 billion shillings, equivalent to $181 million, using today's exchange rate, have been disbursed, with 37% towards working capital for grain trade, 30% for on-farm activities, 19% for agro-processing, and 14% for post-harvest. So through the initiatives customized to our farmers, like the Block Allocation Initiative, we have managed to successfully extend coverage of the SCF to small-scale farmers while keeping the non-performing loans very low. As at September 2022, our portfolio for non-performing loans stood at only 1.4%, largely attributed to the impact of COVID-19. And thus, we are ensuring sustainable refinancing through reflows for more projects in the future. And we want to make a similar commitment to whatever monies that are coming to us under INVITE. We therefore continue to work towards enhanced cooperation and look forward to future engagements with development partners on financing for sustainable and inclusive growth that ensures socio-economic transformation for Uganda. Again, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to thank the Ambassador of Sweden to Uganda, the World Bank, for this generous financial assistance to Uganda, and we pledge our commitment to ensure that the funds are used as intended. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Deputy Governor, Dr. Tingi Ego, for, I don't know, there was in between there, so growth is going to go down, and it was a bit scary, but I think this event suggests that there's hope after all. And just want to recognize and announce the fact that there are about 1,300 people online following this event, so thank you, and keep watching. Over to you, Mr. Juvenal Muhumza from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. You're welcome.
Thank you, Bernard. Good afternoon, everyone. Your Excellency, the Swedish Ambassador to Uganda, the Deputy Governor, Bank of Uganda, the World Bank Country Manager to Uganda, the Chief Executive Officer, Private Sector Foundation Unit, the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Juvenal Muhumza. I work as the Commissioner for Development Assistance at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. And I bring in apologies from the Permanent Secretary, who is not able to be with us this afternoon because of other pressing responsibilities. I'll not be saying more something that is very new, different from what the rest of the speakers this afternoon have said. I'll retaliate the message they have just given us. I take this opportunity to thank the World Bank and the Swedish government for extending an invitation to our ministry to come and witness the signing of the administrative agreement worth Swedish krona 124 million between the World Bank and the Swedish Embassy as complementary support to the investment for industrial transformation and employment project, dubbed as INVITE. Allow me, on behalf of the people of the Republic of Uganda, to extend our heartfelt gratitude for the beneficial and cordial cooperation the government has had with the World Bank Group and the Swedish government. This relationship stems so far and is manifested through a number of interventions. I will not go into listing them, but in a special way, I want to thank both the World Bank and the Swedish government for this timely support. As you are all aware, the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic posed a significant threat to emerging economic transformation in Uganda and put prospects of new jobs in danger. A number of micro, small and medium enterprises in Uganda face severe liquidity constraints caused by the sharp drop in demand due to the COVID-19 crisis. The lower economic activities in industry and services sectors led to job losses, and this has resulted in an increase in the level of poverty. The financial sector, on the other hand, was as well affected, as the number of non-performing loans in the commercial banks rose. In addition, new loan disbursements in Tier 1 to 3 institutions declined sharply, and this, in long run, led to closure of a number of businesses, as you may all be aware. So government is, however, still committed and is undertaking necessary measures to ensure that the pool of unemployed or underemployed does not become larger. These, among other measures, include the provision of long-term cheap capital to the private sector and the business community, to which the investment for industrial transformation and employment projects is anchored. As you are all aware, the World Bank has committed USD 200 million as support towards the implementation of the INVITE project. The project will augment ongoing government efforts of boosting private sector investment and employment, as well as support to new economic activities. To the World Bank and the relevant government institutions that are going to manage this grant, we commit to work with you to ensure that the objectives of the financing are attained. We will ensure that we fast-track all processes for financing to become effective so that Ugandans reap from the intended interventions. The challenges in the business world are complex, and we are optimistic that through this project we shall be in position to address some and also set a ground for ensuring sustainability of business and increase in private sector investments. We are glad that the Swedish government has decided and committed to support growth of Uganda's private sector through their well-thought and designed INVITE project. We do not take the support from our development partners for granted, and we commit to ensure that we fully reap the benefits of this financing. I want to end once again by thanking the Swedish government and the World Bank for the endless support to the government of Uganda. We are confident that the funds will effectively and efficiently be utilized for their intended objective. I thank you for listening. For God and my country.
Thank you, Juvenal. That marks the first bit of this event, the speeches. Now we will have the signing between the ambassador and of Sweden to Uganda and the World Bank country manager, with all the rest witnessing by looking simply. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Those online, you can give us a thumbs up as well and make some comments. Thank you so much for that, for the signing. If we will now have any questions from any media that you want anything probably clarified, anything explained better, or anything else that you'd like to say. I see Martin, you're on the phone. I don't know whether somebody is giving you the question to ask. Please. Any?
Anyway, thank you, Martin Luther, Nation Media Group Monitor. I saw something was missing, and I was waiting to hear from it. And what is missing? What is your estimate in the area of job creation? How much? How many really? 20,000, 40, using this kind of intervention really. Do you have that? And the ambassador, I was waiting for you to change that money to the one I always refer to her to Mama, the one which Mukama uses. I wanted to record it from you directly. I don't want to go and do it.
As they say, when they don't really have the answer, a very good question. But obviously, yes, I mean, it's about different objectives, and we talk about job creation and the money spent. But of course, the interesting part is that it really do create jobs. And I'm sure from the World Bank perspective, there is probably objectives and estimation, but I don't know if we have any number on that. Do you know, Magan?
The question is about the grant or about the entire package?
The entire package, just combine them,
Okay.
and we see. And just to make a clear clarification again, when I say, what are you targeting?
Yeah.
Just using that money only. What is that?
Okay. So, so for the larger project, which is the 200 million, the targets were 300 acres or hectares, sorry, of serviced land available for private investment, 9 projects, public infrastructure projects operated by the private sector, 3,500 MSMEs reporting an increased level of exports, especially with female leadership. 6 years in terms of the survival rate in export markets for manufacturing products. 5% increase in the share of commercial lending to new market segments. An average maturity of MSME loans of 60 to 80 months. And 0 days in terms of the average duration of MSME holds in terms of commercial invoices. So these are the targets that were set out. They're not all about number of jobs created, but as a spin-off, if you have 3,500 MSMEs with increased level of exports, obviously that then has its impacts across the sector. So I think that we're not yet there in terms of numbers of jobs created, unless PSFU would like to hazard a guess.
Thank you, Madam Mukami. I think the intervention is largely, if you were to draw a pyramid, we estimate that your average SME employs anywhere between 5 and 10 people. So any intervention at that level will have a significant impact on that. Remember that any employment also impacts a household. And so many households impacted means you have impacted a community. And we're looking at not just a numbers proposition. We're looking at a qualitative proposition. We're looking at value addition to support our nascent, mainly agriculture, agribusiness industry. Just for example, your average farmer earns farm gate prices of about anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 shillings per kilogram of coffee. Any value add on that significantly gets much more money to the pockets of that young lady or gentleman, almost 100, 200, 300 times. And any further significant impact on the value proposition brings in more money to that. And that significantly impacts off-takers, it impacts aggregators. So we're looking at the impact largely on how do we transform rural communities to add value. I've just told you I'm coming from a meeting where we've just concluded a trip to the UK, the Uganda-UK Convention. We have an offtake requirement for Hass avocado from the United Kingdom and from specific large supermarket stores. They are requiring that your average kilogram of Hass avocado will give anyone 10 to 20 pounds. And yet at the farm gate, people are earning less than £1 for that. So get them into that market, let them get an offtake proposition, and then, it's almost magic. So looking at that kind of impact, we've been lacking that support, that strategic intervention in the area of affordable credit, inputs, markets. The market issue is no longer a problem. It's how do you get qualitative, reliable, sustainable support towards getting those markets. So we have the strategy. Now we have the partners. What's left now is to get the resources to make that intervention. And I can tell you it's looking very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other question or comment? Some people just told me they prefer one-on-one. I think at the end, I know how the journalists operate, but yes. If there's any other question, please. Otherwise, we... Yes, no? Okay. But do you have any other final remarks, thoughts? Yes.
No, I just wanted to, if there was no questions here, we are of course available, I think all of us, to respond to individual questions, but I also just wanted to, it's been hot in here, so I just wanted to say that there are some refreshments also available, few steps to the side. So please, I hope you have some minutes to stay and enjoy and chat, and then we also here to take any further questions that might be from the media, I think. So just from my side, thank you for coming, and just to welcome you also for some refreshments after.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. All right, I think this ends the formal part of the event, and we're very much within time, which is good. And so over to the refreshments and chit-chatting and mixing and mingling. Thank you, and thank you everyone who followed online. Much appreciated, and the audience in here. Thank you very much. And everybody stay safe from Ebola. Thank you.